certain of the news media, is not reflected on the doorsteps. We're the party that won the European elections. We're the party that has had spectacular success in parliamentary by-elections, winning 2 out of the last 3 and coming within a whisker in a purportedly rock-solid, safe Labour seat. So we find that many more people are very positive and very grateful about us raising the issues that they've told they shouldn't be talking about and shouldn't be raising. Yes, there are a very small minority of people, with avowedly kind of socialist, in the main, leanings who will resort to abuse, but we always try on the doorsteps and engage in political debate. We don't expect everyone to agree with us, and quite often even someone who starts out hostile rarely will leave saying they're now a lifelong voter, any interaction, but will have gained respect from us for being willing to talk about the issues.
Been born. When do you think would have been the when would have been the sort of when did we have it most right?
Oh, is that for me? Sorry.
Yes.
I can't think of wanting to be in any time other than now. No, I don't have any kind of sort of sense of sort of nostalgia or anything like that.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking if you're talking so much about the importance of history, if you could have been born in any other time, which one would you have chosen?
Well, I'm being honest with you. I can't think of what. Well, no, I absolutely like being alive now, and I like Britain now.
Would you like me to answer that as well, Marina? Okay. Well, equally, I think it's by far the best time to be alive is right now. There have been so many advances in, technology, culture, living standards in general, although perhaps not in the last decade. So if you asked me to choose another era, I suppose I would just choose a very recent one that perhaps would have been born in 1945 rather than 1965, and then have been old enough to have fully taken in and enjoyed England winning the World Cup in 1966.
I'm Pollyanna, and I'd like to ask, why don't children get the vote? Because people say that they don't know enough about politics. My old babysitter, she didn't know who Nigel Farage was, and she's just about heard of David Cameron. So why don't children get the vote?
Right. Well, sorry, is it Leanna?
No, it's Pollyanna.
Pollyanna. Well, that's an excellent question. And I must say, one of the best questions I've had, and many allegedly more experienced journalists, I'm sure, could learn a lot. There has to be, across a whole range of activities in our society, there has to be an age where an activity is considered, legitimate. For instance, driving, it's 17. These days, going out to fight for your country is 18, although in the past it's been, recent past it's been as young as 16. I personally think that 18 is the right age for people getting the vote. I understand that some people, have a much lower level of knowledge about politics than some others who may be much younger than them. But I just believe as adulthood in society is the point of 18, and that's the point where people should be able to vote. And there'll always be, I think, a natural annoyance among people who are said to be too young to take part in whatever the activity is. And all I can compensate you with the thought that, time takes care of that.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Sebastian Payne from The Spectator. I just wanted to, obviously UKIP is painting itself as one as a very patriotic party. There's another party north of the border who are also swelling national pride, the SNP. Do you think it's fair to describe UKIP as the SNP of England?
What would that be, like the ENP or something? But by the way, I enjoyed your tweet last night, Sebastian, where you named your boss twice in the same tweet. I thought that was excellent. No, well, I don't think the parallels are there, are they? Because we're a party that believes in the United Kingdom, not in simply one nation of the United Kingdom.
He wanted to to stop throwing money over Hadrian's Wall and scrap the Barnett formula?
Yeah, we think the funding settlement of the Barnett formula is unfair, and we note that the public spending per head in Scotland is some £1,400 higher, and you'll see from our 5-year fiscal plan, but by the end of the Parliament, we would be saving £5.5 billion on that. But no, our preference is, as a party that believes in the UK, and we're standing candidates in every nation of the UK, and we have indeed, elected representation in every nation. So I don't think that parallel holds at all. I think the SNP agenda is much narrower and more parochial.
So one thing can you just name one thing you've done for Scotland? Because a lot of the rhetoric has been very has been quite abrasive towards Scotland from UKIP of late.
Well, what we've done for Scotland is given them an extra party to choose, and the good people of Scotland elected an MEP in the UKIP colours who's definitely kind of broadened the range of issues being discussed.
Jack Doyle from the Mail. Apologies if you covered this before I came in.
Yeah.
Do you think there's more place for patriotism in schools? Do you think, like in America, we could sort of sing the national anthem in the morning, or other sort of displays of patriotism in classrooms?
I think that obviously we're a different country to America, and you can't suddenly plant something like that down in a country that's much older and has different ways of doing things. All I would say is what I said earlier, actually, which was that a basic understanding of our past, and our history, that is very, very important. And I think that in a way people can then make their own minds up. But I think they do have to know the backstory, as a screenwriter would call it, of their country and the country they're living in.
Morning, Lindsay Watling from the Press Association. It's a question for both of you. I just wanted to simply ask what Englishness means to you both. What does it mean to you to be English?
Yes, to be English for me means living in a country that's open, that's fair, that's decent and democratic. This is the country notoriously where people do stand in orderly queues. It's a country of understated affinity to neighbourhood and neighbour as well, and that sense of social solidarity is very important to me. And indeed, that's one reason why I think we need to look very carefully about whether that social cohesion is all it might be. And I know, for instance, many working class communities, particularly outside the capital and maybe in the north of England, that's one real regret, is that sense of solidarity, even depicted, in some of the post-war fiction or on Coronation Street in the early days, that's depicting something that we're in danger of losing. So I think that sense of neighbourliness and understated togetherness is very important to me, as well as, of course, celebrating the amazing achievements of England in terms of, inventors, artists, in literature, creating the world's foremost language, and indeed, being a big contribution of, defeating tyranny down the ages. So those are the things I'd pick out.
I would add to that the point about fairness, actually. A lot of our discussion about issues now, and indeed it's reflected in our manifesto, it just simply comes down to a matter of what's fair, and how things should be shared and those sorts of things. But more specifically in answer to your question, I think that it seems to be about England that I particularly treasure is this sort of strange way in which it manages to, maintain in its borders sort of a very, if you like, royal and pageantry-strewn tradition, at the same time as a very radical tradition that's gone through British and English history from the very, very start. And I think that that's extraordinary. And I'd also add to that a kind of form of pragmatism, a distaste for ideology, and a kind of pragmatic approach to political things. I treasure that about England.
If you do it in one word, what's it mean to English?
That's an interesting little test you set us there. I prefer to go away and think about the word rather than just chuck one in off the top of my head. Have you got one?
No, I'm asking.
Ah, well, there you go. That's easy, isn't it? I'll report back a word later in the day, Christopher.
I have a question for both of you. Michael, you can tell the right.
Yeah.
St George was born in what is now Turkey. Would
Yes.
the 3rd century UKIP have blocked St George from entering Britain, or would you have considered him a skilled migrant, sort of filling a hole in the British workforce required?
I really don't know how to answer that question. I mean, it's a kind of thing that the political left in this country, which I don't know whether you would class yourself as within those broad remits or not, but whenever the issue of St George's Day comes up, and I can predict this on Twitter today, there will be many left-of-centre people who just tweet the fact that St George is from what's today known as Turkey, as if that's, you know, the start, finish of conversation, and that makes St George's Day irrelevant or illegitimate or ridiculous. And, you know, I completely disagree. So I guess the answer is I'm not particularly hung up on where St George came from. I'm sort of more interested in what St George's Day can represent.
So he would be a skilled migrant.
Well, I guess dragon slaying is a definite skill, but whether it's one that's in short supply for the needs of the British economy, we'll leave to our Migration Commission.
Patrick, when you talked about UKIP's only Scottish MEP, you seemed to raise your eyebrows. I mean, David Coburn, as a man, seems to just set out to offend people. Do you feel uncomfortable being in the same party as him? And the second question is, do you think that people who live in the UK who aren't from England should be given less priority for school places or housing waiting lists? Do you think someone who's moved here from Scotland, say, should have less likelihood of getting their first choice of primary school?
Well, on the issue of David Coburn, he stood for election and he got elected by the Scottish people. I'm very proud of him for that. He has made some mistakes and he's apologised for those mistakes. So I don't think that there's any beating round the bush about that whatsoever.
You don't personally feel uncomfortable with him being in the same political party as you?
I don't personally feel uncomfortable, no. Okay. Right. On the other thing, you're talking about priority for public services. I think, and then you mentioned someone from Scotland. Well, you know, we have a United Kingdom, don't we? And UKIP believes in the United Kingdom. So I don't think there's any distinction between the right of someone from Scotland and the right of someone from England to access public services.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.